If you grew up in the 90s, you started the journey. If you came up in the 2000s, you kept it alive. And if you find it today, you'll still feel the magic. It's 1998. You're a kid with a backpack full of crayons, crushed snacks, and dreams. But none of those matters right now, because in your hands is a chunky gray brick, the original Game Boy. And inside it, Pokémon Red or Pokémon Blue. No Wi-Fi, no DLC, just you, 151 Pokémon, and a world that somehow fit inside a 2-inch screen. You didn't just play it, you lived it. And you would happily burn through 4 AA batteries in a single night to keep going. Welcome back to the game that taught you friendship, strategy, patience, and that sometimes life just hits you with a Zubat when you least expect it. If this already feels like you're holding that Game Boy again, you might as well stick around. Hit subscribe, and we'll keep the nostalgia coming. Your past hasn't been lost, but it has been archived. You start in Pallet Town. Population, 3 houses, and a weird old man who just lets kids wander into the wilderness unsupervised. Sounds like a day at your grandparents' house in the 90s. Professor Oak gives you the most important choice of your childhood: Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur. You didn't just pick a starter, you picked your personality. Charmander meant you were ready to fight early, even if Brock's rock types turned your life into a tutorial on pain. Squirtle was the safe choice, but everyone respected you. And if you chose Bulbasaur, you were a misunderstood genius who didn't care what the playground said. Then your rival, the human embodiment of trash talk. He picked the Pokemon with the type advantage over yours, which is a weak move, but he still smiled and waited for you to lose. And of course, you named him something dumb like Butt, just so the dialogue would say, Butt wants to fight. The first few hours felt endless in the best way possible. Your world was an open map of tiny pixels and big dreams. You walked into tall grass, no repel, just vibes. Then immediately, a Pidgey, then Rattata, then more Pidgey. You'd swear the game was trolling you. Your mom in the game? She was just cool about letting you travel the region alone. It's dangerous out there. Here's some running shoes. Actually, no, running shoes didn't even exist yet. You walked everywhere. Uphill, probably barefoot. Every new route was a gamble. Would you find something rare? Or another Caterpie staring at you with dead eyes? Your Pokédex became your Bible, even though half the time you were just scrolling to see which Pokemon looked coolest. And the music? Each route had its own soundtrack, and every note is still burned into your brain. That battle theme hitting while you were low on health? Instant adrenaline. It didn't matter if you were in bed under the covers with a flashlight, you still keep going, squinting at the screen like your life depended on catching a Weedle. You'd grind for hours just to evolve one Pokemon, convinced it was the secret to beating the next gym leader. And sometimes, you'd get lost in a cave without flash and wander for what felt like days, swearing you would never take the outside world for granted again. You memorized every step of Rock Tunnel like it was a survival skill you'd actually use one day. Your Game Boy screen was so dim, you had to tilt it at the perfect angle under a lamp just to see 2 feet in front of your sprite. And heaven forbid you ran into Geodude for the 14th time in a row. You'd start questioning whether the Pokemon Company was personally trolling you. But you kept going, because you weren't just training Pokemon, you were training yourself. Patience, determination, the ability to mash run faster than humanly possible. By the time you finally saw daylight on the other side, it felt like you had survived a real expedition. Only difference, you didn't get a medal. You got a town with 1 shop, 1 Pokemon Center, and another gym waiting to crush you. This was the real test. 8 gym leaders standing between you and the Pokemon League. Brock was either a pushover or your first real, I might need to restart moment. Depending on your starter, Misty could ruin your day if you weren't prepared. Lieutenant Surge, the man lived for destroying children's self-esteem with that Raichu. And Erica, half the players showed up just for the vibe check, the other half actually trained. Then it got pretty brutal. Koga's poison team slowly melting your party while you scramble for antidotes. Sabrina's psychic types making you question every life choice. Blaine's gym quiz, pretending to test your Pokemon knowledge, but really just deciding if you were worthy to be roasted. Literally. And Giovanni, pure betrayal energy. The plot twist gym leader, who was also a crime boss. Every fight was a soap opera. You'd start confident, get hit with the critical, panic switch to your backup, and then mash potions like you were doing CPR to a family member. You learned type matchups here, but you also learned that the game thrived on bullying unprepared trainers. Paralyzed, poison, burn, too bad, champ. no autosaves in Kanto, and then came the Elite Four. 4 battles, no breaks. It wasn't just a test of your Pokemon, it was a test of your sanity, your item stash, and whether you'd bought enough full restores to survive. L'Oreal came first with her ice types that weren't just ice types. There were also water types, which meant your fire strategy went up in smoke, literally. Then Bruno, who made you realize you could punch a rock and somehow it would still be super effective against you. What about Agatha? A masterclass in trolling. Her Gengar spammed Confuse Ray until you basically KO'd your own team in a fit of bad luck. And Lance, the Dragon Master, who taught you that dragon apparently means half my team isn't dragons. Deal with it. By the time you crawled out of that gauntlet, battered and low on PP, you thought you'd made it. But no, there he was, your rival. But smirking like he'd been waiting to ruin your day since the professor gave you your starter. And somehow his Pokemon were perfectly level matched to yours, like the game had been stalking you this whole time. The last fight wasn't just about stats, it was personal. Every quick attack felt like a slap in the face, every hyper potion felt like he was laughing at you. But when you finally landed that last hit and saw the champion title flash across the screen, it wasn't just a win, it was vindication, a journey's end. Proof that all the grinding, all the Zubats, all the "your Pokemon has fainted" screams had been worth it. And as the credits rolled, you didn't feel like a kid in your room anymore. You felt like you had just saved the world, pixel by pixel. Here's the thing, Pokémon Red and Blue weren't just games. They were a social currency. The lunch table was your first gaming forum. That's where you learned about the MissingNo glitch, the truck rumor from you, and how holding B when throwing a Pokeball definitely increased the catch rate. It didn't, but we all pressed it like our lives depended on it. If you had a cable link, you were basically the school's Amazon Prime. Kids lined up to trade Pokemon with you like you were running a black market daycare. The rarest trades felt like shady deals, whispered negotiations, handshakes under the table, and both of you pretending like you weren't about to get scammed. And then there was battling, the ultimate way to test friendships. Win, and you felt like a champion. Lose, and you explained to everyone that I was just trying out a new team. Right, you all had that one friend who used nothing but level 100 legendaries and acted like it was skill. Sometimes battles even broke out in class when the teacher wasn't looking. Desks pulled together, Game Boys hidden under the edge, the link cable stretched like a secret lifeline, and nothing hit harder than hearing the victory chime in the middle of math. Catching Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres felt like an Olympic event, but nothing compared to hunting Mewtwo. And then the Cerulean Cave. That music hit different. Every step felt like it could be your last. Then you saw him. Level 70. Pure power. And you were shaking like you were about to defuse a bomb. Throwing Ultra Balls like they were grenades. If you fainted him by accident, game over. Bruh. No checkpoints. Just shame. Back to grinding, so I hope you saved before you battle him. Pokemon Red and Blue weren't flashy. The sprites were janky. The color palette was gray and slightly less gray, and the sound chip made every cry sound like a dying microwave. But it didn't matter, because these games weren't just entertainment, they were a movement. You weren't just catching Pokemon, you were making memories that would outlive your save file. You remember naming your team after inside jokes with friends, saving up allowance for batteries, that panic when your Game Boy flashed low battery mid-battle, and the heartbreak of losing to the Elite Four with no full restores left. It was more than a game, it was your childhood's greatest adventure in your pocket. Pokemon Red and Blue were more than just the start of a franchise. They were the reason you believed in rare encounters, grinding for glory, and that if you train hard enough, even a Magikarp could shine. So the next time someone tells you it's just a game, remember, your past hasn't been lost, but it has been archived. And if you want to go deeper down the Pokemon rabbit hole, check out our Behind the Dark Archive episode on that infamous Pokemon episode that almost never aired. The one that sparked myths, theories, and internet legends. You've played the game, now see the side of Pokemon they didn't want you to see. Thank you so much for watching our videos, we really appreciate it.